Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. Today's video is going to be a book haul. I feel like I can blame Facebook Marketplace and Pango Books for most of these purchases because I got a majority, if not 90% of these used and for a good price. And Pango Books has like changed my life with used bookstores because the used bookstores around me are not great. They really don't have a lot of selections, but Pango Books does, and there's been a lot of things that I've really wanted to read that I didn't want to pay full price for, or just didn't have the money to pay full price for, but I found books for like $5, and they're like basically brand new, and it's been a lot of fun. So we're gonna go through all these books that I've got, and yeah. I know I just filmed a book haul recently, but books accumulate quickly over a few months, especially when you've discovered used bookstores. I don't know what to tell you. So with that, let's just get into this book haul. The first books I'm going to talk about today is actually a trade that I did. So I had some books. I had a book set that I traded for this book set, so I'm just going to tell you about that. That is the Bookish box editions of the Bargainer series by Thalassa. Now, I have started this series and I think I really enjoy it, but April ended and I hadn't finished it, so I haven't been able to continue at the moment. But I think I'm really gonna love it, and so I went ahead and traded for these. These are so cool and so beautiful. I love it. The stenciled edges are amazing, and the covers are perfect. And on the back it says, "Bargainer, I would like to make a deal." And the papers are beautiful. It's signed. There is a reverse art on the dust jacket where you can turn it around and that can be the dust jacket. And then there's foiling on the hardcover. And then the second book is A Strange Hymn. Looks like this. And on the back it says, "I would steal the stars in the sky for you." With these sprayed edges. The foiling. And the last one is Dark Harmony. Looks like this. With the moons. I love the moons. And on the back of this one, it says, "From flame to ashes, dawn to dark, for the rest of our lives, be mine always, Desmond Flynn, always." Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't show you the inside of this dust jacket. But that one looks like this for Strange Hymn. And then Dark Harmonies looks like this. Really cool. They're really pretty books. And the foiling for Dark Harmony looks like this. And I think one of the cool parts of these books is that when you stack them together, the spines say, "Bargainer, I would like to make a deal." And I really like that. I think that's really cool. I love the aesthetic of these books. They're very pretty. And they do say that on the dust jackets as well. If you don't know, if you haven't heard about that series, basically there is a Faye-like character and he is called the Bargainer, and he makes bargains with people for favors, but he's known to be ruthless and he always collects on his favors, and it's usually more than you want to pay. And the main character has made a bargain with him since she was young, since I believe she was like 16 or 17, which is considered an adult in this world. And she is a siren. And after she makes this deal, she continues to make bargains with him, to the point where every bargain you get a bead, and she has like 300 beads like wrapping up her arm that she cannot remove until she fulfills the favors. And the bargainer always comes to collect readily, but for this one he has waited 7 years to collect, but then he shows up at her doorstep demanding to collect. And it's been really interesting so far, and I'm curious to see how it's gonna go, so I'm glad I have those. I know I said I just traded for them, but I also got them on Audible. So something that I wanted to do was, when I'm buying audiobooks, which is not often, I'm usually borrowing them, is when I do buy audiobooks, I want to include them in my hauls because they're my books. So I did end up getting the audiobook for A Strange Hymn and Dark Harmony because I did have Rhapsodic paperback, and Audible was having a sale where the audiobooks were like $3 a piece. And I knew that the paperbacks were going to be more than that anyway, so I went ahead and bought the audiobooks for those so that when I finish Rhapsodic, I can listen to the rest of them, which will be fun. And now I have hard copies of them that I traded for, so that's just a good time, you know? And this is not really a book haul. Like, it is because it was a book, but I have this pre-ordered jacket that I got for Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I just hadn't had a hard copy of the book to put it on, so I went ahead and got a hard copy of the book for a few dollars used so I could put the pre-ordered dust jacket on it because I love it and I don't want it to just sit in a corner. So I finally got the book for this and could put this on my shelf. If you don't know what Once Upon a Broken Heart is, what are you doing on my channel? I'm just kidding. I just talk about it all the time, but basically it's a book set in the Caraval universe following Evangeline Fox, and she makes a deal with a fate named Jax to stop the love of her life's wedding. In exchange, he asks for 3 kisses to be used whenever he wants, and Evangeline may have to go farther than she was ever willing to. Okay, the next book I got is actually an ARC, and it is Juniper and Thorne by Ava Reed. I don't know much about this plot, but I do know that it is set in the same world of The Wolf and the Woodsman, which I have not read. And from what I know about this, there's like a monster that is plaguing this land and has an appetite that cannot be sated. And these 3 sisters, they have a father that will not let them outside at all, and he's just afraid of everything that's going to happen outside. And they kind of sneak off and go to this ballet, and the main character ends up finding love there. And the more she gets involved with this tryst, the more her father's rage and magic is building. And they're kind of drawn into this battle of keeping their city safe. That's all I kind of know about it. It's supposed to come out this month, I believe. So there's that. These next 2 books are Fairy Loot unboxing, so I'm not going to get into these basically at all. I'm just going to kind of show them to you. The first one is the City of Dusk Fairy Loot edition by Tara Sim. And the other one is Blood Scion by Deborah Fillet. And these are also a Fairy Loot edition. They're both really pretty. And if you want to hear more about them, you can check out my Fairy Loot unboxing videos. Okay, this next series of books I got was, again, secondhand, as cheap as I could, because I want to get alternative dust jackets for these. And that is the Grisha Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I have the Grisha Trilogy in paperback and love them, and I really love the covers. But I wanted to get the hardcovers so that I could get these alternative dust jackets. I heard that Nerdy Ink is doing some now, so I might have to decide which set to get, but I really wanted to get Books Know No Age, those Shadow and Bone dust jackets. I can put a picture of one of them here. They are stunning, and I love the design of them. They're so good. The artist that does these, his art is amazing, and I follow him on Instagram and love it. So I would love to get those for these. So I went ahead and got these secondhand as cheap as I could so that I can get the dust jackets for those. If you haven't heard about the Grishaverse, where have you been? It's basically following Alina, who is a sun summoner. She is the only sun summoner that has been around in years and is the only hope for getting through the fold, which is plaguing their land and really like debilitating the country from trade routes and all these other things. And so she goes to train to be one of the Grisha and finds out that the government may be more corrupt than she thinks. The next book that I got secondhand for cheap was Dance with the Fae Prince by Elise Kova. And this is part of the Married to Magic series, and I don't have the first one, but the reason I picked up this one is because Illumicrate does special editions of these books, but they do not do a Dance with the Fae Prince or a Deal with the Elf King anymore. They like reprinted Deal with the Elf King for this one, and then they stopped making them. But the third one that is coming out, Duel with the Vampire Lord or something like that, I pre-ordered because I was curious about it. And then I found somebody selling this cheaply, and this is the Illumicrate edition, so it's got these like silver sprayed edges. It says Illumicrate on the back. Got a signed book plate and stuff in it. Art underneath the dust jacket. The naked hardcover is why I like these books, because it's so pretty and it's got this like holographic silver on it. And I really like that. I think these are really pretty editions. And so because I had the third and I was able to get the second really cheaply, I went ahead and did that. I'm not sure I will ever be able to get my hands on the first one of Illumicrate, but oh well, maybe I can just get the first one in normal hardcover. But basically the back of this says, she knew her hand in marriage would be sold. She had no idea a Fae Prince was the buyer. That's basically the premise. So she's sold off to marry this Fae Prince, but there's also this battle of this like bloodthirsty king that doesn't want his throne to be stolen. They have to go into hiding. There's these attacks happening, and she finds out that surviving in the Fae world may be more difficult than she originally thought, and she doesn't want to fall in love, but that may be something she can't resist. And it just sounds fun, and I'm excited to have this edition. You're gonna see a theme here that some of these books I bought for those monthly TBRs that I talked about of doing one genre each month, and these are gonna be a part of that, and that is City of Thorns and Lord of Embers by C.N. Crawford. And this is book 1 and 2 of the Demon Queen Trials. I'm starting to think that this was like a ripoff. Not from the secondhand sellers thing, but I've heard Amazon's been doing this because this one's like soft touch and legit, and this one's like shiny and looks kind of blurry, so that's not great. So hopefully I can get a better version of this if I like it. But I did get these for the fantasy romance TBR I'm gonna do for that month. And I was kind of curious about the Demon Queen trials, like that just sounds cool. Basically, you're following this main character who is, I think she's turning 21 on her 21st birthday. She's like going out drinking, and then the Lord of Chaos comes and takes her because he's mistaken her for a succubus doppelganger. But he realizes that she's mortal, and they both have this drive for revenge. So they make a deal that she can stay in this forbidden city to hunt her mom's killer, and in return, she has to help him get vengeance. But the problem is that he's her #1 murder suspect. So it sounds kind of interesting and maybe fun, we'll see. And then I have book 2 on deck if it goes well. In that same vein of fantasy romance, we have To Bleed a Crystal Bloom by Sarah A. Parker. I've heard pretty good things about this fantasy romance book. It's kind of thick for a first book in a fantasy romance. It's almost 500 pages, but it sounded kind of interesting. The cover's kind of cool. And basically, this character 19 years ago was plucked from a massacre, and she was the only survivor. And she is ward to a powerful high master. And she's kind of sheltered and just never wants to leave because she feels she's safe in this confined space. And if she leaves, there's monsters out there. And she thinks that the cost of leaving would be greater than her blood sacrifice that she puts into a cup daily for this high master. It sounds like she's kind of got like this Stockholm syndrome, so she's kind of like enamored with this guy that's keeping her captive. But then it sounds like there's some attacks from the outside monsters, and more things are revealed to her that maybe like shatter her reality, and she kind of sees the truth of things. And on the back it says, "No tower is tall enough to protect me from the horror that tore my life to shreds." So it sounds kind of interesting. I think this is a romance, but it sounds like she's gonna like snap out of it, so hopefully she does, because that's really toxic. But I don't know, I've heard it's good. I'm curious. The next one that I got that I've actually been wanting to read for a long time, but it was so expensive that I couldn't justify buying it because it was so small, and that is A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Haro. And this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, which I'm a big fan of Sleeping Beauty, but it's a tiny little novella. It's only like 119 pages, and then there's a lot of pages that are just like art, like this. I think this was actually like the Bookish box version or something. It has like a signed bookplate in it, but I got this for $2 and I was pumped because I was like, $18 is too much to spend on this, but I really want it and I really want to read it. So now I have it and I'm very excited. And basically this main character is dying from a disease, and her best friend is determined to make her last birthday spectacular, and they do this like Sleeping Beauty thing. But when she pricks her finger on the spindle, something unexpected happens, and she's transported to a world with another Sleeping Beauty desperate to escape her fate. And so it just sounds like a crazy twist and fun and a quick read, so I'm curious to get to this and happy that I was able to obtain it. The next book that I got, I was actually really curious about for a while and really wanted to read, but you know, it was just kind of biding my time and saw it on sale for a really good price, and that is Castles in Their Bones by Laura Thalassa. And this is a book following 3 daughters, 3 sisters, who have been trained since birth to marry princes and then take down their kingdoms from the inside. And it just sounds amazing. Like they've been trained to seem demure and like perfect wives, but they've really been trained with like deception and seduction and violence to bring down the monarchies from 3 separate kingdoms. And it just sounds so cool that I was like, I have to have this. I really hate the cover, but I'm so happy to have this and to read it. I actually heard the Bookshelf Scout talk about this book and he really enjoyed it, and I was already really excited about it, and then when I heard him talking about that it was in fact really good, I was curious. So I have this now and will be able to give you my thoughts on it whenever I have a chance to pick it up. The next book that I was able to get, I was so pumped about, and that is the Illumicrate edition of Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. Now I just need Vicious. It's impossible to find for a good price or a reasonable price, but if anybody has Illumicrate Vicious they're willing to trade or sell to me, please let me know. I would love to have it. But I do have Illumicrate's Vengeful, and I'm so happy I do. Vicious is my favorite book of all time. I love the Villains series by V.E. Schwab, and so I grabbed Vengeful. If you don't know what Vicious is about, it's kind of like X-Men. There are people that have extraordinary abilities, and these two roommates in college have determined that they think they can give people extraordinary abilities by having them die or being on the brink of death and then bringing them back to life. And it may or may not work. And then they become arch nemesis, and it's so good and I love it so much, and I'm glad that I have the sequel. This next book I got is also a Faye Crate exclusive, and I had never heard of this book or anything about it, but the more I've heard about it, the more interested I am to read it, and that is Ilahara, The Last Marasa. It's a mouthful of a title, by C.M. Karas. And this is I don't remember if they're sisters or friends, but it's two authors that combine this author name, and they are Italian sisters, I believe. And this is their first book, and I'm very excited about it, and it sounds really cool. And I'm just gonna kind of read you the back of it because I don't really know this book very well to be able to just kind of tell you about it. But it says, the Princess Marasa lost everything on the night of the coup of Fire her family, her dragon, and as is falsely believed, her life, when the usurper queen slaughtered the royal family and claimed the throne of the Faye kingdom of Ilahara. After seeking refuge on the human continent and leaving her magical past behind, she takes on a new identity, Shara, an assassin blessed with dark powers, including the ability to hide in shadows. And now she meets the prince who is heir to the throne that was usurped. But when a crone proclaims the last of the dragon-blessed rulers still lives and prophesies the return to Ilahara, friend and foe alike set out to find her, and the prince is among them. But he discovers that she is not only a cold and beautiful assassin, but also the princess he once knew. When the chance to rid his family of the Marasa threat comes, Darren hesitates in dealing the killing blow, setting off a chain of events that threatens to destroy the carefully crafted world and charting a new course that may see her return to Ilahara to face her greatest enemy and her destiny as the last dragon-blessed queen. That sounds like a lot wrapped in there, but it just sounds really interesting and fun, and I'm excited about it. The cover's really pretty, has gold sprayed edges, has a signed book plate. The inside of the dust jacket looks like this. Look at this hardcover. Look how beautiful it is. I love it. Ugh, it's so cool. I love it so much. I pretty much got this book because I knew it had to do with dragons and was beautiful. Okay, yeah, it does say C.M. Karas is the author name of two Italian sisters. Our love of reading and writing started in reading classes with our American teachers in elementary school. And as young girls, our love for fantasy was fueled by books and Disney marathons. That's so cute. I love that. So that's this one. The next one that I was able to obtain, even though it's a little bit beat up, is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. And this is the Illumicrate edition, which I thought I would never be able to get my hands on, and I can't believe I did for a good price. And I've talked about this book on my channel before, but basically it's a Goose Girl retelling from the thief's perspective, and it goes from there, and it was a lot of fun. Has beautiful sprayed edges, but the best part of the Illumicrate edition is the printed hardcover, which has art from the author herself, which is so cool, and I love it, and was very happy I could get this. This next one I got, you guys. When I tell you my heart almost stopped, I saw this used for $30. And I immediately bought it. I was so excited. That is the Illumicrate edition of Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I've had my eyes on this book for so long, and I was able to get it for $30, and I was floored. Look at those edges. Look at them. Oh, I was so happy to get this. I have the UK edition, and I really just wanted this edition so bad, and I'm so glad I was able to get it. The edges are stunning, it is signed, and this one has the Voss house crest on it, which is so cool. I liked that the different editions had different house crests on them, and on the back it says, "All shall kneel." And I love it so much. I was so happy I got it. And I have talked about this book on my channel before and given you kind of a vague synopsis, but I'm actually going to read the inside flap for you this time so you get a little bit more information. So it says, it's been 27 long years since the last sunrise. For nearly 3 decades, vampires have waged war against humanity, building their eternal empire even as they tear our own down. Now only a few tiny sparks of light endure in a sea of darkness. Gabriel de Leon, half man, half monster, and last remaining Silver Saint, a sworn brother of the Holy Silver Order, dedicated to defending the realm from the creatures of the night, is all that stands between the world and its end. Now imprisoned by the very monsters he vowed to destroy, the last Silver Saint is forced to tell his story. A story of legendary battles and forbidden love, of faith lost and friendships won, of the wars of the blood and the forever king, and the quest for humanity's last remaining hope, the Holy Grail. I'm just so happy I have this. I really need to read this book. I haven't had the chance, and I really need to because I've been very pumped about it since last year, and I need to make it happen. The next book that I got is Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. And I've actually talked about the normal version because I did buy that and read it. And have it in some reading wrap-ups and stuff, but I also got the Alcrate edition in my Alcrate box that glows in the dark. I did do an unboxing of this one as well, so we're not going to get into this at all, but basically you're following two sisters that want to be in this magical hotel as guests or staff, and they find out that the contracts that you have to sign to stay in this hotel are more sinister than meets the eye. And I love this edition. It's got naked hardcover and everything, but I'm not going to talk about it because I already did my unboxing. So there's this one. And another fairy loot book that I have that I'm not going to touch on at all, just kind of go through really quickly, is the Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake, and this is the fairy loot edition with the cool sprite edges, questionable color choices, but still cool. The next couple of books I got are in the Athena Club series. So the first one is The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, which I've been really curious to read and I've heard nothing but great things about, and I really need to read it, but I haven't yet. But I went ahead and found the second and the third in the series, again for a very good price. So the first one is European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman. Looks like this. Let me tell you guys, this is the second book. This thing is thick. Look how chunky that is. And this is the second book, and as a paperback, I don't know. It just seems so much chunkier than it should be. It's 700 pages, like that's nuts. But anyway, so I got this one. And the third, which is The Sinister Mystery of the Mesmerizing Girl. And these are all kind of these monstrous women, like 1800s London, and it just, the whole thing just sounds amazing. And so I've been very excited about this series, even though I haven't started it yet. When I found the second, third cheaply, I decided to go ahead and get them. But from what I know about it, it's following characters like Sherlock Holmes and the daughters of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Frankenstein and all of those things. And it just sounds unique and fun and funny. And I've heard great things about it. And so I went ahead and picked up the last two of the series. The next one I got because, again, I eventually want to get alternative dust jackets for these, but also found the collector's edition hardcover, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is the exclusive collector's edition and just has some cool stuff in it with the end pages and the hardcover. It says Oz Travas, and it's just cool. And if you haven't heard of A Darker Shade of Magic, it's basically following Kel, who's one of the last Antari, which basically can control magic in this world, and there is 4 different Londons: White London, Grey London, and Red London, but Black London is no longer existing because the magic kind of became too much and corrupted that world. So you're following him as he ends up taking an artifact to a world it shouldn't belong, and then chaos ensues. And I really liked this book. I have not finished the series, but I did enjoy it, and now I have the collector's edition. And the next one I got, which was one of my anticipated releases and one of my pre-orders, was Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynn. This is book 2 in the Bloodsworn trilogy, and I read Shadow of the Gods recently and really enjoyed it and wanted to get to this in April and didn't have the chance to, but hopefully I can get to it soon. Basically, you're following 3 different perspectives, and they all have this like different goal, but the shadow of these ancient gods that take form of like a dragon, a wolf, etc., that are known to be dead. There's these kinds of events that are happening that maybe point to they're not as dead as everybody thought. And that's kind of all you can say about it, but they all have their different goals of these 3 perspectives, but they kind of get pulled into this overarching plot of these gods. And I really liked it, and I'm hoping I can get to the second one this year. All right, now I told you I want to do that whole month. It might be 2 months, but that whole month of reading a genre of fantasy romance. So I also got A Ruin of Roses by K.F. Breen, or Brienne. And this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I believe it's like a dark romance Beauty and the Beast retelling from what I know. I've just kind of gone through, and if I remember hearing about the book and hearing moderately good things about it, I was buying it for this, like, I guess you could call it a readathon, but just this month of me reading certain genres. So I went ahead and grabbed this one. That's all I truly know about it, is that it's a dark Beauty and the Beast retelling. On the back it says, I could save him, but he would ruin me, the beast, the creature who stalks the forbidden wood, the dragon prince. So I guess it's more of a dragon beast situation. So he's the last dragon shifter, and he's her hope and her nightmare. Sounds interesting. Hopefully it's good. I'll let you know. And another fantasy romance that I picked up that I've heard good things about is A Fate of Wrath and Flame by K.E. Tucker. I've heard that she is a really popular romance author in general, and then this is her fantasy romance. And again, I've just been kind of looking at recommendations, getting recommendations, and then picking them up and seeing how I feel about them for this readathon I'm gonna do. But this little like blurb at the top says, she would know the world of vengeful gods and monsters and the lengths one would go for love, and nothing would ever be the same for her again. And basically she is a thief that is caught, and she's kind of thrust into these battling realms of magic and creatures, of opposing thrones, elemental magic, and warring elves. And basically this person that catches her and like holds her at sword point and asks her to steal this thing, she goes to do that. She is again caught by the prince, who absolutely despises her and tells her, you can either live your life in prison or you can help me uncover this plot against me. And to her, that's like a no-brainer, so she goes and helps him, and she pretends to be this like swooning fiance, but the more she discovers the truth of the situation, the more she realizes that the truth that she's uncovering could ruin them all. I don't know, sounds interesting. We'll see. You can tell that I don't know a ton about these fantasy romances, except maybe the bare minimum or just a good recommendation, because I haven't delved into it that much, but I know I'm gonna read them for this like readathon, so yeah. Now I have heard about these. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about them, but I'm gonna give them a shot because of this whole thing I'm doing. And that is the Dark Olympus series by Katie Robert. The first one is Neon Gods, and the second one is Electric Idol. These are all Greek mythology retellings. The first one is a Hades and Persephone retelling, and the second one is a Psyche and Eros retelling. And I've heard people blow up about these. I've heard people really love them. I know they're like really popular on Book Talk and such. I don't know how I would feel about them. I don't know if I'll like them at all, but I went ahead and grabbed these so that I could read them and tell you my thoughts on them. Truly, all that I know about these is that they are modern Greek retellings, similar to Lore Olympus, which I adore, but you know, this is more of a dark romance situation. And truly all I know about them is that they're modern Greek retellings. This one's of Hades and Persephone. This one is about Eros and Psyche, and that's it. I'm sorry that I'm like being really vague about all these romance books, but I will read them. I will tell you my thoughts. You will find out eventually. If you guys are into these books and you've read them, I would love to know your opinions about any of the books that I've talked about. I feel like some of them are lesser well known, while others like that are obviously people have talked about them on Book Talk and whatnot, and they have a following, but I'm not familiar with it because I haven't read them. I'm rambling, but let me know your thoughts. I love to hear your thoughts. Another fantasy romance I grabbed because some of these books are like $22, $21 a piece, brand new, and I'm just not about that if I'm not really sure how I'm gonna feel about it. So when I find them for like $5 to $10 used, I went ahead and got them because I was like, if I'm gonna have to read these anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of money on them, and that was also the case for this one, and that is the High Mountain Court by A.K. Mulford. And I've heard good things about this one as well for people that do like fantasy romance. And I like the size of this paperback. It's satisfying to me. I like it. And at first when I saw this title, I was like, is this just an ACOTAR ripoff? But I do think it's a little bit different. It says, 13 years fleeing witch hunters and the looming threat of death, 19-year-old Remy knows she is possibly the last red witch alive, and she is determined to stay that way. The Northern Court King has slaughtered her home and court and placed a bounty on the Red Witch's heads. When 4 Fae warriors enter her tavern refuge, Remy tries to flee, but her magic isn't strong enough to stop a Fae prince on a mission. The handsome Prince Hale of the Eastern Kingdom wants to stop a war with the Northern Court before his kingdom befalls the same fate as Remy's. He needs a Red Witch, and Remy may be the only person alive who can help him. And so they team up. I'm assuming stuff happens, but it's kind of interesting. I like that she's a witch, and I'm sure that'll play an interesting part in this book. And yeah. If you would like to comment down below and tell me which of these fantasy romance books you would like me to read for that month, which is probably going to be next month, let me know and I'll try to add them in for you. If not, I'll just have to go off the cuff. But if there's one you're curious about, let me know. The next few I'm just going to kind of run through. They are arcs that I was able to get, and the first one is Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is book 2, the first one being Black Sun. I don't remember the plot for Black Sun like at all, but I did really want to read it, and I have this arc, and yeah. I'm so sorry, this book haul's so bad. And the next arc that I have is The Ballad of Perilous Graves by Alex Jennings, and this is one that I'm actually really curious about reading. It is an Orbit book that is coming out this summer, and this is set in New Orleans where the music is the magic. And it's kind of hard to describe, but it says on the back, a place of sky trolleys and dead calves where haints dance and the night away, wise women keep the order, and songs walk, talk, and keep the spirit of the city alive. To those from away, Nola might seem strange. To failed magician Perilous Graves, it's simply home. Then the rhythm stutters. 9 songs of power have escaped from the magical piano that maintains the city's beat. And without them, Nola, the city, will fail. Unexpectedly, Perry and his sister Brenda are tasked with saving the city, but a storm is brewing and the Haint of all Haints is awake. Even if they capture the songs, Nola's time might be coming to an end. So it sounds like a very musical, magical New Orleans situation, and it sounds cool. The next one is The When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. Now this says it's supposed to be on sale in May. I thought it was on sale in June. This was a book that I was really curious about. It's basically following the world in 1950 when there was a mass dragoning, which is where all of these women suddenly turned into dragons and disappeared. And you're kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds pretty interesting. But it's also surrounding like all the women that turned into dragons and left. People act like it didn't happen and they just ignore that those people ever existed. So maybe there's like sinister elements underlining this. It sounds interesting. It sounds interesting, maybe a little strange, but it's about 300 pages and I'm just curious about it, and it says dragons, so you know I'm already down. So we'll see how this goes. Another one I got, which is kind of silly because I know this book is out now, is Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shannon McGuire, and this is book 7, I believe, in the Wayward Children series. I feel like that's all I can say because we've talked about the Wayward Children series on this channel a lot. Basically, it's a school for children that come back from portal worlds and don't know how to cope and are trying to get back to their world. This is the 7th book in that series. And then I have this cool arc. I just think collecting arcs are kind of fun sometimes. And also you can trade them for other arcs or other things you want in the bookish community, like other books, which is cool. And I have the arc Artemis by Andy Ware, and I just thought it was a really cool thing to collect. And so I got this. I truly don't know what this is about, but I know that this is in the same world as The Martian, which is very popular. Basically, you're following like the first city on the moon, but it's really expensive to live there. And so the main character that does live there can't afford it, and so she's trying to pull off this giant heist to be able to get this money that she needs. But then she finds herself in a conspiracy to control this city. So yeah. The next book was also a pre-order and one of my anticipated releases this year, and that is The Book of Night by Holly Black. I absolutely butchered the premise for this book in my May TBR. So I'm going to read you the synopsis because I was getting it mixed up with something else and it was a mess. So I'm just going to give you the actual synopsis now. This is Holly Black's first adult fantasy novel, which is fun. It says, Charlie Hall has never found a lock she couldn't pick, a book she couldn't steal, or a bad decision she wouldn't make. She spent half her life working for gloamists, magicians who manipulate shadows to peer into locked rooms, strangle people in their beds, or worse. Gloamists guard their secrets greedily, creating an underground economy of grimoires, and to rob their fellow magicians, they need Charlie Hall. Now, she's trying to distance herself from past mistakes, but bartending at a local dive, she's still entirely too close to the corrupt underbelly of the Berkshires. Not to mention her sister, Posey, is desperate for magic, and that Charlie's shadowless and possibly soulless boyfriend, Vince, has been hiding things from her. When a terrible figure from her past returns, Charlie descends into a maelstrom of murder and lies. Determined to survive, she's up against a cast of doppelgangers, mercurial billionaires, gloamists, and the people she loves best in the world, all trying to steal a secret that will give them a vast and terrible power. So it sounds really great, which is what I thought because that's probably why I had it on my anticipated releases this year. But it sounds really fun. The cover's beautiful. I did get the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. It's got pretty end pages and has this little foil design on the cover. It's only 300 pages, so it's kind of small, but I'm really looking forward to this. I'm hoping I can read this in May. I am curious to keep reading Holly Black's work, even though I wasn't a big fan of The Cruel Prince. So happy to have this. This next series of books that I got secondhand were ones that I have wanted to have hard copies of for a while, but then they changed covers and I wanted them to match my old covers, and I found this set for like $5 each and I was very pumped about it. So I went ahead and got it, and it's a series that I really did enjoy, and that is the Lunar Chronicles by Marisa Meyer. Marisa Meyer is one of my favorite authors. I really enjoy her works. And so I got the original hardcovers of Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, and Winter. And these are kind of hard to find, so I was really excited that I got the old covers. I really prefer the old covers to the new covers, and I know that I'm in the minority of that. I enjoyed the Lunar Chronicles a lot, so I've already read all of them. They're basically all fairy tale retellings, but it has like cyborg elements and space elements, and it's like a sci-fi fantasy scenario. I really enjoyed it. If you like fairy tale retellings with a twist, I would suggest them. and I wanted my own copies of them, and now I have them, so that's a fun time. We're getting close, fam, we're getting close. The next series of books that I got, also secondhand, but this was like the best thing ever. So I got the Cursebreaker trilogy in hardcover, and you may be saying, like, why did you get that series in hardcover when you love reading paperback books? I don't know if you knew that, but I love reading paperback books. I did have the first one in paperback, A Curse So Dark and Lonely, but I didn't have any of the other books, and so I thought about buying the sequels in paperback as well, so I could read them, but I wasn't really finding the third one cheaply, secondhand, and all of that. And then I really love the Bookish box dust jackets they did for this series, for the Cursebreaker series, but they don't make them anymore, and now if you buy them secondhand, they're really expensive. People are selling them for like $150. I'm not gonna pay that for these, I'm sorry. So I was like, well, I'll just get the paperbacks, it'll be fine. But then, like I said, I got this hardcover set because the person that sold these to me sold the books and the Bookish box dust jackets for $60. I was thrilled. That's like buying each of the books for $20, which is about what you would pay for them brand new anyway with the dust jackets. And she put the original dust jackets over top of them to protect them, so I'm gonna show you them now, and I'm so excited that I found this. It was like I made my day, I was so happy. So I'm gonna show you the Bookish box dust jackets, and I love them, and I'm so thrilled. Okay, I can't wait, okay. So the covers is not what I'm very excited about, but they are pretty. So this is the cover, and the spines are absolutely stunning, but like I'll show you them all together. They're soft touch, and the back says, I am always surprised to discover that when the world seems darkest, there exists the greatest opportunity for light, which is a beautiful quote, and that's A Curse So Dark and Lonely. And then we have A Heart So Fierce and Broken, and the back says, choices are never easy. There are good and bad options, but the most dangerous is not to make any choice at all. Also very beautiful, looks like that. These are all by Bridget Kemmerer. I don't know if I said that, but there you go. And then we have A Vow So Bold and Deadly. And the back says, love can bloom anywhere, even in the darkest of times. And when you put them all together, this is why I love these dust jackets. When you put them all together, the spines make this beautiful scene of like stained glass and castle, and I absolutely love them. They are amazing, and I've loved them for a long time and just thought I would never get them, and I got them, and I'm so thrilled. I can't wait to put them on my shelves. They're gonna look so good. I'm getting obsessed with dust jackets now, and I feel like that's another problem, but here we are. The next book I got is actually a Once Upon a Book Club exclusive, and it is The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick, and I believe this is also a fantasy romance from what I can tell, but this book is so cool. Like, look at it. It's got these like metal things on the corner. This design is really pretty. The spine is stunning, and this is volume 1 of the Dark Wind series, or volume 1 of some Wind series. And the edges kind of look like a terraform map. It's just so cool. And on the back it says, thrashed in the fury of a storm, I find still a sliver of calm. And the end pages match the sprayed edges, and it's just so cool. The Four Winds series. This is book 1 in the Four Winds series. And it's just a really cool book. And basically from what I know about this book is there are these celestial gods, air-given flesh, and they are the four winds, and they've been banished to the four corners of the earth. So one of them is the north wind, I'm assuming like south wind, east wind, west wind, whatever, but one of them is the north wind. And the main character, Wren, she's known suffering her whole life, but she's a survivor. And for the last 300 years, the land that she lives in has been encased in ice, and surrounding them to protect them is this shade, whatever that means, but it's like a shade around the land that protects the people from the Deadlands. And it's starting to weaken, but the only way to keep it strong is to sacrifice a mortal woman, and then it'll keep them safe. So the time has come to sacrifice a mortal woman to the North Wind, the Frost King, because the time has come for him to choose his bride. And that's just kind of the premise of this book, but it's a stunning book, and it'll probably end up in my fantasy romance readathon. So good times. I just really like this edition. It's really cool. I hope they do all the books in this edition. And I mentioned the two audiobooks I bought in the Bargainer series. I also bought the audiobook that was also like $3 or $5, and that is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. This is an older, really popular sci-fi book that I've been interested in a long time to read, and so when I found it on audiobook for like $3, I was like, this is it, this is the time. So I went ahead and bought that. Basically, on the world called Hyperion, there awaits a creature called the Shrike that is gonna like wreak havoc and destroy everyone. And some people worship it, some people fear it, or they're trying to destroy it. And it's in this valley of these structures that move through time, which is crazy, and the entire galaxy's at war. And 7 pilgrims set out on a voyage to try to find answers to these different mysteries surrounding their lives, but one of them may have the fate of humanity in their hands. And so it's kind of vague, but I've heard, you know, really good things about this series, obviously. It's a very hyped and well-known and popular sci-fi, vintage sci-fi novel, and I'm really curious about it. I love the cover with that like metal suit of armor that's like Sauron-esque, and I'm really looking forward to reading that at some point. The next book that I got is actually a graphic novel, and it was for my husband, John, and that is the White Sand Volume 1 by Brandon Sanderson. And this is set in the Cosmere universe, and that's all I know about it. I just know that he wants to read like everything Cosmere. We found this at the used bookstore. We went ahead and got it because these are like, the first one's like impossible to find now. So we went ahead and grabbed that, and hopefully he can enjoy it. And the last book in this book haul is one that I was like seeking after because it looked beautiful. This is like the most beautiful book I've ever seen. And I was curious about the premise, and I really love maps. Like, it's just a thing. I really love maps. And so I had to get this book, and that is the Goldsboro edition of The Cartographers by Pang Shepherd. Look at the cover. So first off, the cover is amazing. When I saw these sprayed edges, I lost my mind. Look at it. Oh, it's so pretty. I love it so much. So I grabbed this. This is obviously a Goldsboro edition. It has this little plastic protective sleeve on it and is signed and numbered. And from what I know about this, it's kind of like a sci-fi fantasy novel surrounding maps. So the little inside flap says, there are some maps you can lose yourself in. Nell Young has lived her life in and around maps. Her father, Dr. David Young, was one of the most respected cartographers in the world, but this morning he was found dead or murdered in his office at the New York Public Library. Nell hadn't spoken to her father in years, ever since her father fired her after an argument over a seemingly worthless highway roadside map. A map which was mass-produced, every copy of which is now being found and destroyed. But why? To answer that question, Nell will embark on a dangerous journey into the heart of a conspiracy beyond belief, the secrets behind her family and the true power that lies in maps. So it sounds like a murder mystery, kind of maybe magic, maybe not, but very much map involved, and it just sounds really cool, and I'm excited that I have this and to read it at some point. So just jumping on here real quick. Hi from the future. I actually missed 3 books in my book haul, so I'm just gonna go run through those real quick. First one was Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This was one I was really curious about, and it was one of my anticipated releases. This is the UK edition because I really liked the cover more. And the reason I was interested in this is because it was following this main character who ends up teaming up with this like ragtag team, one of which is a demon-possessed chicken. That's literally why I bought this. But I'll kind of read you a little bit of the synopsis. It says, this isn't a fairy tale where the princess marries a prince. It's the one where she kills him. So basically her and her sister are suffering abuse from the hands of this evil prince, and she seeks help from this powerful grave witch, and the grave witch promises to give her the tools to defeat the prince if she completes these like seemingly impossible tasks. So the Grave Witch goes on this journey to complete these tasks with her, as well as a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping knight, and a demon-possessed chicken. And that's all I needed to read this book, and I have it, and I'm gonna read it. The last 2, which I forgot about, were recent purchases, again from Pango Books, this used book platform. One of them that I've been kind of curious about, especially recently because it came out in the US recently, but it's been out in the UK for a while, I believe, and that is The Circus of Wonders by Elizabeth McNeil. And this is the UK edition. I believe it's the Waterstones exclusive edition. It has these really cool sprayed edges, and I really prefer this cover over the US edition. It says signed limited edition at the top. But when I started kind of getting interested in this story, I really liked the UK edition better, but I was like, I'm not gonna go out of my way to buy this UK edition when I'm not like that invested in buying it brand new. But I found this for like $10, and so I was like, I'm gonna do that. That's awesome. It's set in 1800s England, and the main character is kind of made fun of and made to feel horrible her whole life because of these marks on her skin. She's got like these birthmarks that are like speckle her skin, and she's kind of made to feel horrible about that. And when the Circus of Wonders comes to town, she is kidnapped and realizes that her father has sold her to this circus. And she is supposed to join this circus as like the leopard girl. And she kind of like finds this found family, and she starts to be like, maybe this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then she starts to fall for the ringmaster's brother, and her fame is starting to eclipse the showmaster, and maybe he doesn't like that, and maybe some things will start happening to her. So it sounds kind of interesting and not necessarily my usual read, but I hope I like it, and it is circusy, which will be fun. The next one I bought, I had no idea existed, and when I saw this, I immediately had to get it because it was like $5, and that is this book. So this is the slipcase, which I will get to in a second, but it's The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader, a Star Wars book. And so this is the slipcase on the outside that has Darth Vader on it. In the back it says, "This is the legendary story of Anakin Skywalker as it's never been told before, through his eyes, from rise to fall, from light to dark, and back again." This book is by Ryder Windham, and so this is the slipcover. It's really cool, and then when you do this, it's Anakin Skywalker from Revenge of the Sith, and I love it so much. So it's this really cool like printed hardcover. And on the back, it has like the inside of Darth Vader's helmet, like what his eyes would see, which is so cool. And it says, "Born a slave, raised a Jedi, feared by the galaxy." And this is so cool. I didn't know this existed, and I'm very happy I found this, and this is such a cool collector's piece. So very happy I have this. Matches my hoodie right now. Okay, so that's actually all the books, so now I'm gonna cut back to me. Bye. Whew, that was a lot. All right, everyone, well, that is it for today's book haul and video. Please comment down below any of these books that you would like to hear my opinions on, or just some books that you're excited to read. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.